Continuing with handwork, this is third place in the category of handwork, Jordan Year, The Quilt of Golden Delights by Laura Hartridge. Second place in handwork, Me, 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 Me by Heidi Parks. And first place in handwork, Arches by Julie Rubin.
I don't know what that's what so yeah right now. Oh no, you're right. Interesting. What's on the back? Yeah, because I was looking at what's that.
Handwork category, Isomeric by Danielle Stanfill of Hawaii, United States. Isomeric was a gift to my third miscarriage. She couldn't stay because of a missing X chromosome, and this was my attempt to right that wrong. Quilted by hand using 3 types of threads and features a technique called couching. Isomeric is a chemistry term and refers to the relationship between the similar compounds that make up the front and the back of the quilt. The binding is pieced and the lines are hand painted. Gory Vote by Marla Varner of Washington, United States. This quilt was pieced in 2020 using my scraps and freehand techniques as a daily project. In solidarity, my friend Sarah Hibbert sent me letters from across the pond to make one of the words, which I happily incorporated into the design. The top languished until 2024, when another consequential election motivated me to finish. Print fabrics continue the message on the reverse side. Democracy works best when everybody participates. Handwork category, Follow the Soft Sun by Jen Bromell of Indiana, United States. Every day, reminders of how torn we have become, but yet there is always reason to look up and follow soft the sun, follow the thread, follow the light. Handwork category, Verdant, Aim, Nimble, Soften by Heidi Parks of Wisconsin, United States. 365 applique circles depict 2021 as a container-shaped calendar. I felt uniquely fortunate that year in the realms of work, relationships, and health. Researching this recent history gave me insights on why the year was so good and an opportunity to reinvite that auspicious energy into the future. As I quilted, I highlighted moments like my vaccination in March, a website update in November, and the day I taught my first on-demand class in December. Handwork category, Peachy Green, graphic riff number 2, Angela Stiefbold, Virginia, United States. After making a very geometric and precise quilt based on a graphic found within Moda's Decorum Form fabric line, see the sample on the label, I decided to make an improv version and not use a ruler to measure anything as I pieced. My colors were inspired by the Pantone Quilt Challenge of 2024, Peach Fuzz. Handwork category, We Are Still Here by Emma Alcazar, Virginia, United States. Wow. I'm trying to say this. Ila Yasha Kathima means we are still here in the Chickasaw language, with all of the apologies of probably absolutely slaughtering that. The background fabric represents stars in the night sky. The central motif represents our location and the sun above. The hand-quilted looped square is the world that surrounds us, and the shadow circle is in the below world. Red and white are symbolic, representing the balance of danger and order that is life. The lettering was hand-drawn and attached with a needle turn applique. Handwork category, Quiet Moments, Loud Thoughts by Rowan Haug of Mississippi, United States. While I have a studio outside my home, most of my work is transportable and more often than not completed in stolen moments at my dining room table, carpool, or at soccer practice. Quiet Moments, Loud Thoughts is the third in a series where I use the time-intensive yet portable investigation of English paper pieced hexagons, created in those quiet, stolen moments of motherhood, moments of distraction and intentionality, of meditation and rumination. Handwork category, The Idea Fairy by Tia Curtis, Kansas, United States. The Idea Fairy is the little sister to my Ideas in the Pool quilt. It's yet another in my series of thinking about how my thoughts and my quilt designs intersect. The Idea Fairy is made entirely of scraps from other projects that were immediately at hand. I used hand applique to stitch all the circles and humps on, and then used trapunto and stuff work behind the applique circles to create more dimension. Handwork category, On the Plus Side by Linda Branting, California, United States. I began On the Plus Side just barely in a workshop with Irene Roderick at Empty Spools in March 2024. A planner by nature, I was out of my comfort zone, but up for the challenge and determined to persevere. This top took time coming into its own. Ultimately, though, it declared itself finished with an exuberant addition of cross-stitch pluses. On the plus side, it's finished. Handwork category, Pedestal by Rianne Minardi Morrison, Colorado, United States. Pedestal is an exercise in using high contrast hand quilting to create a layer of design that both informs the piecing and is entirely separate from the piecing. The curves were hand pieced and the blocks were machine pieced to complete the top. The quilting motif was marked with a ruler and quilted with sashiko thread. Handwork category by Julia Walks of Washington, United States. Aperitif was inspired by a beautiful metal gate that stopped me in my tracks in Copenhagen. This quilt was created as a love letter to slowing down, to appreciate the small stuff, like hand quilting an entire quilt. Handwork category, line study number 2, Plaid Unravels by Heather Kenyon, Illinois, United States. Inspired by the fabric pieced into the center of the quilt top, I created a plaid using several different thread colors and different densities of hand quilting that creates an illusion of a woven plaid. During the long process of hand quilting, I reflected on my inner state, and at some point, the careful plaid was no longer sustained by my thoughts, and it unraveled, unblocked and unsquared to highlight the work of my hands. Handwork category, number 26, Jane Bitts of Washington, United States. Designed from a paper collage I made using techniques in Sarah Hibbert's Collage to Quilts book. I was going to enter this into the Pantone Color of the Year challenge, but decided on hand quilting it with Pearl 8 cotton and densely quilting cross stitch and herringbone stitch in the entire background. The background quilting was directly inspired by Sean Kimber's beautiful hand stitching. Handwork category, the early 90s by Catherine Butterworth of New South Wales, Australia. This quilt features scarves from an Italian fabric company who produced them to promote their season's new color ranges. Headers from the Swiss houses of Mettler and Fischbacher, also from the early 90s, have been pieced together for the backing. The scarves were hand quilted before they were stitched onto the quilted ground. Hand-stitched embellishments on both the front and the back of the quilt were added for texture and detail. Handwork category, Sacred Ground by Judith Martin of Ontario, Canada. Informed by solitude and quiet, and the earth and the plants that grow wild. Quieted by the slowness of hand stitching and the dreamy place it sends me. Comforted by the peaceful horizon line across the water. Inspired by trembling grasses and birdsong by every day and by every evening. This quilt is a prayer. Handwork category, Home Hand by Feng Lai in Victoria, Australia. Home Hand is a tactile exploration of comfort and home created with layered textile waste. Using an abstract expressionist style, I've pieced together post-production waste fabric from India to evoke a sense of warmth. The traditional log cabin block, appliqued as isolated windows, invites viewers to look closer. Handmade lines traverse the piece, adding texture and evoking the craftsmanship of past quilts when every scrap of cloth held significance. Category, Jiggly Mode by Catherine Butterworth of New South Wales, Australia. Quilt design inspired by artist Victor Vasarely's use of simple shapes and captivating color combinations. Dimensional texture achieved by hand quilting feature elements before sandwiching the quilt. Couching features on both the front and the back. Handwork category, Blue Improvised Silhouette by Lauren Clements Hart, Moorpark, California. Textures and dimension are important elements in my work. I enjoy the contrast created by placing unquilted spaces next to heavily quilted areas. Here I was interested in exploring how dense quilting would impact a solid white background. The blue improvised composition was rotated for the white contours. The result is the blue contours come to the foreground, overlapping the puffy white shapes, both layers afloat over a sea of seed stitched in pale aqua. Handwork category by Jen Bromell in Indiana, United States. From one of my still series, Still Blood Boils. The state of the world has me sad, worried, and often enraged. The process of making has become not just a comfort among the distressed, but also an affirmation that beauty can always be found and should be sought. Life zigs and zags, good and bad. I tend to choose to tilt towards and bask in the light. It takes work, and still blood boils. Handwork category City Limits by Tanya Tanti from Victoria, Australia. Under the bright lights of the city, we embark on journeys of exploration and connection, discovering new cultures and forging bonds that illuminate our paths. Each adventure brings us closer, reminding us that in the vast tapestry of life, it's the shared moments that truly shine. Handwork category Log Cabin Variation Fire by Alexis Deese. The log cabin composition is classically associated with the idea of hominess or domestic idol. In this quilt, the red central square denoting the hearth has been replaced by a woman's face, while the hearth flames are no longer contained, but have spread to lick the cabin's logs. The quilt, as a symbol of domestic contentment, is challenged, and the relationship among fire, woman, and quilt, consumptive, destructive, illuminating, is deliberately ambiguous. Handwork category Moving On by Pachi Sarmiento, Atlanta, Georgia. Moving On explores geometric abstraction through the interplay of vibrant shapes, bold colors, gradients that evoke movement, and a grid structure which provides balance and order. Each block, though part of a whole, retains a sense of individuality as the colors and angles in between, inviting to pause and consider each section's uniqueness as a whole. Crafting this quilt by hand, the process becomes an integral part of the narrative, offering a visual and tactile engagement. And on this one, at first look, I thought the maker had found some really interesting fabric that had the breaking of the color across the line. But this wonderful scattering and fracturing is actually done with stitch. Handwork category Life in Pieces by Laura Brown, individual member from Canton, Michigan, United States. I love to make memory quilts. The scraps left over from those quilts never feel like mine, but I can't throw them away. For this quilt, I decided to overdye a few of the most beloved scraps, including from a best friend who passed away and a crib sheet for my children with indigo. The cotton muslin is from a stained set of curtains my mother sewed. The pattern is a log cabin block.
It was cool. Thank you.
We'll just dance. Handwork category Zerschmettert by Victoria Nelson of Mesa, Arizona, United States. Zerschmettert was started in a workshop with Maria Schall. Working from my own photo, I created a simplified composition, drafted templates for the major shapes, and improvisationally pieced each area of the quilt. The name reflects the background approach and family challenges during the year. Ditch quilted by machine to stabilize, then hand quilted to create texture and detail. Handwork category Harrison Map by Clara Stoikow, Harrison, New York, United States. This map shows the area in Westchester County, New York, where I've lived for the past 4 years. Pattern fabrics mark places that were particularly important to me: gray as water, greener parks, nature preserves, and forests. I hand stitched the quilt top using the English paper piecing technique. The templates were made from transparent paper, which I used to trace the paper print out of the map. It is entirely hand quilted. Handwork category, Forest Bees by Irina Timofeeva, St. Petersburg, Russian Federation, an individual member of the MQG. Broken honeycombs or tree leaves, the vanishing yellow color or the sun shining through the treetops. This quilt is sewn on the theme of protecting bees from extinction and tells the story of the lost home that the forest once was for bees. I really love the irregular not FPP, EPP here. The extended hexagons in there. This is the handwork category. It's called And a Spot of Red, and it's by Lauren Clements Hart of Moore Park, California, United States, Ventura Modern Quilt Guild. Fabric remnants from 2 wall hangings based on the cropped letter Q tumble playfully across the surface. Perhaps due to the theme of the original quilts, this composition hints at making marks and the art of calligraphy. One can still identify segments of the original letter. Echo quilting accentuates the shapes. Rice grain stitching provides background texture. The red spot is a nod to the quilter who encouraged me to go bigger. Thank you, quilty friend. Handwork category, Quattro by Simone Simmons, Northern Territory, Australia. Pieced using a dice determination method and then arranged into quadrants to enhance the movement of the quilt. The hand quilting uses a large cross stitch, is designed to complement the piecing as well as creating its own visual impact in a high energy quilt.